January 20th, 1973, 10:30 p.m. Conakry, Guinea. Amílcar Cabral, the revolutionary voice of Guinea-Bissau and Cape Verde, lies dead in a villa courtyard. But who pulled the trigger? Who gave the order? One assassination, 50 years of cover-up.
The terrorist Cabral has been eliminated by his own people. The empire is secure. Guinea-Bissau's resources remain accessible. Shareholders can rest easy.
But why were they so afraid of one revolutionary that his death required international coordination? We need to understand the machine he threatened to dismantle. Born in 1924 in Bafata, Portuguese Guinea, Amílcar Cabral entered a world designed to extract wealth from African soil and labor. Portugal's native statute divided Africans into categories: civilizados, who adopted Portuguese culture, and indigenas, the majority treated as subjects without rights. This wasn't accidental oppression. This was scientific exploitation. Portuguese dictator Antonio Salazar built his fascist state on colonial extraction. Guinea-Bissau's groundnuts, Cape Verde's strategic ports. These were the arteries pumping wealth into Lisbon while Africans starved. But in 1945, Portugal made a fatal error. They educated their future executioner.
They teach us about soil composition and crop yields, but I'm learning something else: how empire turns knowledge into weapons against the colonized.
When Cabral returned to Guinea-Bissau in the 1950s as an agricultural surveyor, he crisscrossed villages, conducting crop censuses.
Peasants work 16-hour days for wages that won't feed the Portuguese dog. This isn't agriculture, it's organized theft.
Cabral discovered that colonialism wasn't just political oppression, it was ecological warfare, monoculture, destroying food security, forced labor, resource extraction, impoverishing the soil itself. This knowledge would become his weapon and the reason for his death sentence. September 19th, 1956, 6 men gather in Bissau to found the PAIGC. Among them, Amílcar Cabral, armed with agricultural surveys and revolutionary theory.
We begin with peaceful resistance, but we prepare for what Portuguese violence may force us to become.
New Marxist organization in Portuguese Guinea. Subject Cabral has unified rival ethnic factions. Assessment: extreme threat. Immediate surveillance authorized.
August 3rd, 1959. Portuguese troops fire on striking dock workers at PIDE harbor. 50 dead. The moment that changed everything.
They answered our peaceful demands with bullets. History will record who chose violence first.
From the blood at PIDE came Cabral's conviction. Only armed struggle could break Portugal's grip. January 23rd, 1963. A Portuguese garrison comes under attack in the mangrove swamps near Tite. The first shot of a war that would last 11 years.
We don't just fight with weapons. We fight with schools, hospitals, agricultural cooperatives. We show people what independence looks like.
Cabral wasn't just winning territory, he was proving that small nations could defeat superpowers through scientific revolution. January 1966, Havana becomes the capital of world revolution. 500 delegates from liberation movements gather. Cabral steps onto the international stage.
Culture is the foundation of liberation struggle. Without cultural resistance, political independence becomes decolonization.
Suddenly, a movement in forgotten Guinea-Bissau was positioned as the vanguard of African liberation. Cuba promised doctors and teachers. Moscow accelerated weapons shipments.
Cabral now plugged into global insurgency network. Threat to Western interests. Recommend enhanced monitoring.
November 22nd, 1970. Portugal launches the most audacious assassination attempt in modern history. A seaborne raid on Guinea's capital to kidnap or kill Cabral. 400 Portuguese commandos invade a sovereign nation's capital. Cabral survived. International condemnation was universal.
Direct military action has failed catastrophically. Alternative elimination methods require immediate development.
Alternative methods. Intelligence speak for time to buy a traitor. October 16th, 1972. Cabral addresses the United Nations. His words carry the weight of centuries of colonial plunder.
We come not as beggars, but as representatives of a people who have liberated themselves through armed struggle against colonialism.
For Lisbon, it was global humiliation, their terrorist being treated as a head of state. For Washington, it was strategic disaster, Soviet influence gaining UN legitimacy.
Cabral's international status threatens regional stability, enhanced measures authorized through allied channels.
The death sentence was signed. Now they just needed an executioner. But why did 3 intelligence agencies coordinate to kill one African poet? Portuguese colonial archives reveal substantial revenues from Guinea-Bissau's agricultural exports, groundnuts, cashews, and palm oil flowing to Lisbon markets.
The profits were significant enough to justify any measures to maintain control.
Colonial banking monopolies ensured every export passed through Portuguese financial institutions. Cabral's nationalization program threatened this entire system. Though Guinea-Bissau lacked major minerals, Cabral's alliance with Sékou Touré threatened Western corporate control over Guinea-Conakry's massive bauxite reserves. American aluminum giant Alcoa and others depended on African bauxite. Cabral's independence model threatened their extraction contracts across the region. But for Washington, the real prize was the Azores. This Portuguese-controlled archipelago crucial to NATO's nuclear umbrella.
Cabral's success could destabilize Lisbon regime, strategic implications severe.
To the CIA, Cabral wasn't just an African revolutionary. He was a threat to NATO itself.
Cabral cannot be eliminated through military action. We require American psychological warfare expertise and financial support for internal operations.
They didn't pick their traitor randomly. They engineered him.
Subject Kani exhibits optimal vulnerability markers: financial stress, ethnic resentment toward Cape Verdean leadership, authority conflicts, recommended for cultivation.
Declassified documents confirm CIA financial transfers to Portuguese intelligence services for African operations during this period.
Special operations funding flowed regularly to Allied intelligence services. The amounts were significant enough to recruit and maintain multiple assets.
The exact sums remained classified, but the financial incentive for betrayal was real. Portuguese documents reveal a complete penetration network: Serpente in the political bureau, Cobra in military command, Vibra in external relations, Kani with personal access to Cabral. While recruiting assassins, they launched psychological warfare, forged CIA payment records linking Cabral to American intelligence.
Our enemies seek to divide us by exploiting colonial wounds. If I am killed, look for foreign hands behind African faces.
January 20th, 1973, Conakry, Guinea. The night that would end with betrayal began with poetry, cultural reception, Cape Verdean writers and sympathizers sharing stories, songs, the kind of gathering where Amílcar Cabral felt most at ease. His security was light, his guard was down, but in the shadows, fault lines were already forming. Some guests were trusted comrades, others had been courted by PIDE.
Cultural event in progress. Portuguese assets report optimal conditions. Maintain observation protocol.
10:15 p.m. Cabral and Ana Maria slipped away from the warmth and laughter through Conakry's calm streets. The assassins knew his route. They'd been watching, planning, positioning. The car was forced to a stop. Armed conspirators dragged Cabral out, striking Ana Maria. What followed was not chaos, it was procedure. He was interrogated briefly. Where are the documents? Where are the funds? And then, in a moment, a gun was raised. Inocêncio Kani, a longtime fighter turned traitor, a man forged in the same struggle, fired the fatal shot. A single bullet tore through his throat. He collapsed instantly.
Operation Limpeza successful. Primary target eliminated. Begin Phase 2. Movement disruption.
The official story was elegant in its simplicity. Cabral died in an internal power struggle. African movements, they suggested, inevitably collapse into tribal violence. Lisbon-controlled newspapers portrayed Cabral as a victim of the chaos he created. Africans couldn't govern themselves. No investigation, no condemnation, no questions about foreign involvement, just diplomatic silence. Within weeks, PAIGC executed several accused conspirators, including key witnesses who might have exposed foreign involvement.
The speed of those executions was suspicious. People who knew too much were eliminated before they could talk.
Portuguese intelligence files on the assassination mysteriously disappeared. CIA cables from the period remain heavily redacted. Witnesses vanished or died under suspicious circumstances. For decades, this looked like an ordinary press agency. Behind the typewriters were men trained in sabotage, infiltration, and assassination.
A Ginta press was a front for Portuguese intelligence operations across Africa. They specialized in eliminating liberation leaders through local proxies.
Their full role in Cabral's death remains classified. But who actually benefited from silencing Cabral? Portuguese corporations kept their extraction monopolies for 2 more years, earning millions from groundnut and cashew exports. Banco Nacional Ultramarino maintained its colonial financial control. Western aluminum companies secured their African bauxite supplies temporarily.
We assassinated Cabral to save the empire and guaranteed its destruction.
September 24th, 1973. 8 months after murdering Cabral, his assassins watched Guinea-Bissau declare independence exactly as he predicted. Amilcar, Amilcar, your blood waters our freedom.